The year was 1919. The world was still reeling from the aftermath of World War I, and the air was thick with both exhaustion and anticipation. The Great War had ended, leaving behind a trail of broken families and battered nations. Indian soldiers, who had fought bravely on distant battlefields, returned home with hope in their hearts. Across India, the promise of greater freedom seemed closer than ever. People believed their sacrifices would finally be recognized. But instead of granting self-rule, the British government imposed the Rowlatt Act, an oppressive law that allowed arrests without warrant and imprisonment without trial. Hopes were dashed in an instant. In Amritsar, Punjab, anger erupted. The city, sacred to Sikhs and bustling with trade, became a center of protest and resistance. Its narrow lanes buzzed with talk of injustice. Two beloved leaders, Dr. Saifuddin Kichlu and Dr. Satyapal, were arrested and hidden away. Their sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through the community. The news electrified the city. People from all walks of life marched peacefully, carrying banners and chanting for justice, demanding the release of their leaders. The British, led by Lieutenant Governor Michael O'Dwyer, saw only rebellion. Martial law was imposed. Public gatherings were banned, and the city was placed under strict surveillance. The army took control. The city was tense, a powder keg ready to explode. Fear and uncertainty gripped every household. On April 13th, Baisakhi brought thousands to Amritsar, many unaware of the new restrictions. The festival, a time of joy and renewal, drew families and friends together. They came to celebrate, to worship, and to protest. The lines between festivity and resistance blurred as the crowd swelled. Most didn't know that gathering in groups was now illegal. The new law was not widely understood, and confusion reigned. The city's festive spirit mixed dangerously with political unrest. Beneath the music and laughter, tension simmered. The British prepared to crush dissent. Plans were drawn up behind closed doors, and soldiers readied themselves for confrontation. The people, unaware of the looming threat, gathered in a walled garden, Jallianwala Bagh. It was a place of refuge, but on this day it would become a trap. The stage was set for tragedy. The air was heavy with anticipation, as if the city itself was holding its breath. In a single day, hope and celebration would turn to horror. The transformation would be swift and unforgettable. The city's fate, and India's, would change forever. The world's eyes would soon be fixed on Amritsar. The world was about to witness a massacre that would shake an empire. The ground itself seemed to tremble with the weight of what was to come. The people's faith in British justice was about to be shattered. Trust, once fragile, would be broken beyond repair. The events of that day would echo for generations. The pain and courage of Amritsar would become part of India's collective memory. Jallianwala Bagh, once a place of gathering, would become a symbol of sacrifice. Its walls would bear silent witness to the cost of freedom. The British underestimated the resolve of a nation. They failed to see the unity and determination growing among the people. The seeds of independence were about to be sown in blood. From tragedy, a new hope would rise. The tragedy of Amritsar would unite India as never before. People from every corner of the country would rally together. The world would soon learn the true cost of colonial rule. The story of Amritsar would travel far beyond India's borders. The massacre at Jallianwala Bagh was not just a local tragedy. It was a turning point in history. It would inspire movements for justice and freedom across the globe. The city, the nation, and the world would never be the same. The echoes of that day would shape the future. The story of Jallianwala Bagh was about to begin. A story of pain, courage, and the unbreakable spirit of a people longing to be free. Jallianwala Bagh was a walled, open space in Amritsar, surrounded by tall, unyielding brick walls that seemed to close in on all sides. The garden had only a few narrow entrances, barely wide enough for two people to pass at once, making it difficult to enter or leave quickly. On Baisakhi afternoon, thousands, men, women, children, gathered inside, drawn by the festival and the promise of community. Some came to protest colonial rule, others to rest after visiting the Golden Temple, seeking shade and respite in the garden's calm. The crowd was peaceful, unarmed, and unaware of the danger that was about to descend upon them. Brigadier General Reginald Dyer arrived with 50 riflemen, his face set with grim determination. Without warning, Dyer blocked the main entrance and positioned his troops, sealing off any hope of escape. The crowd, backs turned, listened to speeches, unaware of the soldiers behind them, their voices rising in hope and protest. Dyer gave no order to disperse. No warning shot was fired. He simply commanded, "Fire." Soldiers shot into the densest parts of the crowd, aiming to kill, their rifles unleashing a storm of bullets. For 10 minutes, bullets rained down. Panic erupted as people screamed and scrambled for cover. People ran, but the high walls trapped them, turning the garden into a deadly cage. Many were shot as they tried to escape, falling near the exits or against the walls. The exits clogged with bodies. There was nowhere to go, and the cries of the wounded filled the air. Some jumped into a well to escape the gunfire, desperate for any chance of survival. The massacre was cold, calculated and relentless, an act of terror carried out without mercy. When the firing stopped, hundreds lay dead or wounded, the garden transformed into a field of tragedy. Daya marched his troops away, leaving chaos and devastation behind him. The Bagh, once a place of peace, was now a scene of horror, its soil stained with innocent blood. The massacre was over, but its impact was just beginning. Survivors wandered in shock, searching for loved ones. The city was silenced by shock and grief, its people united in mourning and disbelief. The world would soon hear of the atrocity, as news spread rapidly across continents. Jallianwala Bagh had become a symbol of colonial brutality, its name forever etched in history. The bloodshed would ignite a movement for freedom, fueling the struggle for independence across India. The tragedy of April 13th would never be forgotten, its memory living on in every heart that yearns for justice. The firing was merciless. Over 1,600 rounds were unleashed into a trapped, unarmed crowd, with no warning and no chance to escape. The air was filled with panic and terror, as bullets tore through men, women and children alike. People scrambled over bodies, desperate to escape the relentless gunfire. Some tripped and fell, others climbed over the fallen, all driven by a single instinct, survival. The well in the garden became a last refuge for many, filling with those fleeing bullets. Over 100 died there, crushed or drowned in their frantic attempt to survive. Daya watched, unmoved by the suffering. He later admitted he wanted to terrorize Punjab into submission, believing only fear could control the people. His goal was not to disperse the crowd, but to punish them harshly, to send a message that would echo across the land. The massacre was a deliberate act of state terror, calculated to instill fear and obedience through violence. When the shooting finally stopped, the ground was littered with the dead and dying, a scene of unimaginable horror and grief. Official British reports claimed 379 killed, but Indian estimates were much higher. Some say over 1,000 lost their lives that day. Thousands more were wounded, left without help or medical care, their cries echoing in the night. Daya imposed a strict curfew. Families could not reach the wounded, and no one was allowed to offer aid or comfort. Many died overnight, crying out in vain, their suffering made worse by the enforced isolation and fear. The next morning, relatives arrived to a field of blood and loss, searching desperately for loved ones among the dead. The massacre was not just an attack on a crowd, it was an assault on India's soul, a wound that cut deep into the nation's heart. The pain and outrage would fuel a national awakening, uniting people across regions and backgrounds in their demand for change. The memory of Jallianwala Bagh became a permanent scar, a symbol of colonial cruelty and the cost of freedom. It united Indians in their demand for justice and freedom, strengthening the resolve of a nation to break its chains. The world would soon learn of the horror unleashed in Amritsar, as news of the massacre spread far beyond India's borders. Daya's actions would haunt the British Empire, sparking outrage and debate even in Britain itself. The massacre marked the end of illusions about colonial rule, exposing its brutality to the world. Jallianwala Bagh would never be forgotten, its memory living on as a testament to the resilience and spirit of a people determined to be free. The British tried to suppress news of the massacre, but the truth emerged. Indian journalists and leaders exposed the atrocity, shocking the world. In Britain, outrage erupted. Winston Churchill called it monstrous. Parliament debated fiercely. Some defended Daya, but many were appalled. The massacre shattered Britain's image as a just empire. Around the world, the event became a symbol of colonial brutality. For colonized peoples, Jallianwala Bagh inspired resistance. In India, faith in British justice was destroyed. Rabindranath Tagore returned his knighthood in protest. Gandhi, once hopeful for cooperation, launched mass non-cooperation. The massacre united Indians across divides. Millions became determined nationalists. The world saw the true face of imperialism. The demand for independence grew unstoppable. Jallianwala Bagh was now a rallying cry for freedom. The British Empire's moral authority was forever damaged. The massacre's legacy would echo far beyond India. Under pressure, the British set up the Hunter Commission to investigate. Indians doubted its fairness, suspecting a whitewash. General Daya testified, showing no remorse. He admitted he wanted to terrorize Punjab. He would have used machine guns if possible. The British members condemned Daya's judgment, but recommended no criminal charges. Indian members called his actions inhuman and demanded punishment. Daya was relieved of command and forced to retire, but not tried for murder. In Britain, some hailed him as a hero. A newspaper raised money for him. This response enraged Indians, proving justice would not come from the colonizers. The failure to punish Daya fueled the independence movement. The massacre showed that freedom would not be won by loyalty, but by struggle. The Hunter Commission's divided verdict deepened the wound. The British establishment's reaction revealed the true nature of colonial power. The call for justice became a call for independence. Jallianwala Bagh became a symbol of the need for self-rule. The struggle for freedom intensified. For over a century, Jallianwala Bagh has remained a painful memory. No formal apology has ever come from the British government. Leaders have expressed regret, but many Indians want a clear admission of guilt. An apology would acknowledge the massacre as a crime of empire, not just one man's act. The demand is for historical justice, not revenge. Some in Britain resist, fearing legal claims. Others see apology as a moral necessity. Recognition would help heal old wounds and strengthen ties. There's also a push to recognize the massacre as a crime against humanity. Jallianwala Bagh is a universal lesson about unchecked power. The victims deserve to be remembered as human beings, not just colonial subjects. The massacre is a vital lesson in India's schools, a story of sacrifice and the fight for freedom. It teaches the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of civil liberties. The Bagh itself is a living classroom, visited by millions. Globally, Jallianwala Bagh is a warning against state violence. Including it in world history helps balance the narrative of empire. Teaching this history is about honesty, not blame. The story remains relevant as the world grapples with injustice and oppression. By remembering, we equip future generations to build a more just world. Today, Jallianwala Bagh is a national memorial, a quiet place of remembrance. Bullet marks and the martyrs' well remain as stark reminders. The Flame of Liberty, a tall pylon, honors the martyrs' spirit. The memorial is a place of pride and inspiration, not just sorrow. It transforms tragedy into a symbol of resilience and national identity. People from across India and the world come to pay respect. Annual ceremonies keep the memory alive. The memorial's message endures. Freedom is precious and must be guarded. The site tells a story of pain, courage, and hope. Jallianwala Bagh is where a nation remembers and renews its commitment to justice. Jallianwala Bagh is a story of resistance, not defeat. The massacre ignited India's independence movement and inspired anti-colonial struggles worldwide. Remembering such atrocities is crucial for all humanity. They are part of a global story of oppression and the fight for dignity. The memorial stands as a permanent witness, a testament to suffering and ultimate victory. The echo of Amritsar's tragedy was heard around the world. Jallianwala Bagh is a global monument to the fight against oppression. Its lessons must be remembered everywhere. The silent walls and eternal flame remind us to defend human rights. The story of Jallianwala Bagh is a warning and a call to build a more just future.